Well, good evening, and thank you for joining this Beyond the Notes series, speaker series session. The goal of Sticky Notes Group, we've been together for over 6 years, is to provide you with just in time information that can help you with your career and navigating the workplace. I am thrilled to have my friend Vanessa Bell Calloway here today to talk about voice and value in the workplace. So we aren't going to delay anymore. We're going to get into it. Welcome, Vanessa. It's so good to see
Oh,
you.
Shelby, how are you, my darling?
Yes, yes, it is just always good. Well, I want to just start off because, I know people know you, but they don't know you. But I want to start off by just saying, what got you into entertainment? What made you know this is what I'm going to do? Tell us a
And
little
I
bit
want to
about.
start by saying congratulations on your show.
Oh,
So I've been a huge fan of yours for years. So I'm
thank
so
you.
happy to see that you have branched out to do something like this. And I know it's wonderful, and I'm excited that you invited me as a guest tonight. But to answer your question, if you asked my mother, she would tell you that I was a breech birth, that I came out dancing. And I don't know, like sometimes you just know. I was that kid. Now I'm going to date myself because I'm going back to what you call Lawrence Welk and the Ed Sullivan Show, all those shows back in the 60s in Cleveland, Ohio. They were national shows, but we were in Cleveland, Ohio. And anytime that dances would be on, I was just like drawn to it. I was just drawn to those shows. And I remember that there was this one show. I think it was called the Lawrence Welk Show there, and he had dancers, right? So I would run to the living room and I would look over my shoulders at the TV set because y'all that's when you had a small TV, and I would try to imitate what they were doing, running around. And then I would walk around in my sneakers on my toes. And my mother said, "Oh my God, you're gonna break your toes." But I wanted to dance so bad, and I didn't know what it required. I didn't know where my mother needed to take me. I didn't know anything. I just know when I saw the people on TV dancing, and I'm not talking about like dancing socially. I'm talking about dancing. I wanted to do that. So my mother eventually found a place where she could take me because economically she couldn't afford it, at Caribou House, which is one of the oldest Black regional theaters in the country. They gave me a scholarship and they took me in, and I was able to study dance and theater there, and at like age 11 and 12, and that changed my life. So I just always knew that that's what I wanted. I knew that that was part of who I was, and I was a determined kid. I was gonna figure. This is funny. I used to go to the library. My mother used to make us read every summer. Which we had like one of the first book clubs before book clubs were famous. I didn't even know it, but we had a book club. But she was busy, and so she would take us and she would take the neighbors' kids, and she would put us together, and everybody had to go to the library and read a book. And the book that we would, you get your book, and then you have to share the book, right? I got this book called I Want to Be a Dancer. And I would open up the book, and that's how I learned the positions of like first place, second place. I would look at the pictures, I would get a chair. And remember, you don't remember because you guys are younger than me, but your mother had these fold up house shoes. And I would put those on because they looked like ballet slippers to me. Now, mind you, they were too big, but I tried to stay in them as long as I could. But I would make my own bar, and I would imitate the pictures. And that's how I seriously, by the time I took my first dance class, I was already familiar with the dance position because I had taught myself from looking at a book. I want to be a dancer.
Yes. So, having understood that you wanted to do this from an early age, then I'm assuming that you were in the industry really young. And sometimes, as young employees and young people getting into the workplace, we struggle a little bit with speaking up.
Right.
Talk a little bit about how you in an industry like you're in were able to really amplify yourself and use your voice to get things done.
Well, in my business, it's sometimes very minute. In other people's business, it's different. Speaking up for yourself first starts like in the makeup room and the wardrobe room because you'll go to, and it's a very very gingerly. You got to know how to like do that seesaw, because you can't go in there being uh, obtrusive and rude and putting people off, because you need to learn very early on that those people were hired by the producer, and you want to make sure that you don't tear your butt with the producer, because that producer may produce other things. And if you come to that job and you are very what they quote is difficult to work with, that could very well be your last time. But you still have the right to defend yourself. So it starts very minutely. You go to a costume fitting and things are horrible. So you got to protect yourself in the workplace by saying, I know this character would wear this, because you have to take yourself out of it. Like Vanessa wouldn't wear that, but Mary would. Mary from Iowa, whatever. She would. Vanessa wouldn't be called dead in it, but Mary would. But still, I have the right to make sure I don't look hideous. So I have to find a very balanced way to let this woman know without insulting her that, oh, okay, this works, but my shape would not allow this to work on me because of my figure, and this is going to make me look this way on camera, yada yada yada. And it's all how you, as my mother taught me years ago, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So that's one of the first things you have to do. Then it's little things like going to the hair and makeup once again. And especially when you're dealing with people who aren't brown skin like you, and they're trying to do your makeup, and they think that they know it all, because they may be award-winning people. Hey, I'm not taking that away from them, but that don't mean you know how to do my makeup sometimes. Because I know how I look best. So it's all that, like, where you're got to speak up in the workplace to say, "Hey, thank you, but would you mind trying this base instead? Because this is the color that looks best on me." Or, I like my eyebrows this way. It really looks so. It's all how you communicate with these people, just as without coming and say, "Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that." With making them feel like, "Oh my gosh, she's so difficult." You find a nice way to say, "Thank you. This is okay, but I know that this would work better." And what I do is, like, I bring my own makeup with me. I'll let the people know ahead of time. This is the base I like. These are the products that I know work on me. Especially as a seasoned actress now, I basically they're like, what do you need? But even when I was younger, I would bring my stuff and I would say, or I would tell them, but then they think you're young and you know what she's talking about. Especially if you get an older makeup artist and you're young, they look at you like, "Girl, sit down and shut up. I got this." And then a lot of time they don't. So in the workplace, you have to find a way to protect yourself. So you have your own makeup ready. And then I would say, "Thank you, very nice." And then I would go in that trailer and I would redo my makeup or fix it up. And I tell young actresses all the time, know how to do your hair and makeup. Don't be that one that you feel like you always got to have a flood of people coming to your hotel room or your house to get you ready for an event. Hey, that's great. I love sitting back like that, being pampered for an event. Someone bringing me clothes, someone doing my hair, someone doing my makeup. That's great fun. But that's not a reality all the time, especially if you got to pay for it. Now, when the studios are paying for it, that's different. But if you're paying for it, that may not be a reality. A lot of times I've had to get myself together, do my own hair, do my own makeup. I've had to get myself together, because it's like, if I can't do it, I can't depend on them doing it.
Yeah, I think, Vanessa, some nuggets you pulled out there were, first of all, self-reliance, because that's
Yes.
super important, because sometimes you don't have that support. So you have to make sure you're setting up support for yourself. But you also talked about the way you say things against, what you're saying, right? And I
Right.
think no matter what workplace you're in, it's super important that you know how to approach people and how to get the best things done. And you said, and I loved it, "Well, I like this. Thank you very much. But maybe we could add this, or maybe we could try this next time." And I think that translates to anybody's workplace, but in particular,
Like my mama said, it's
yeah,
not what you say,
it's
it's
how you
how you
say
say
it.
it.
Absolutely. So, it sounds to me, and I'm sure, you had a good support system, behind you, with your mom being there. Not everybody has that, right? But at what point, when you were working, did you say, "Wait a minute, now they really see me now"? they really see who I am and what I bring to the table. And was there a defining moment for that? So, you went on set and you didn't have to worry about whether or not your makeup was going to be okay for you or whether or not the producer or the director were going to talk to you in a certain way. When did you know I'm being seen?
That's an interesting question because you never know you're being seen, and you never had that moment. I'm not sure I've ever really had that moment, but I had moments where it's like, okay, I don't have to fight as hard on this job, definitely. Okay, I'm maybe and it's something as easy as that I'm with Black women who are doing my hair and makeup, so I can relax a little bit because they get it. Like right now, I got twists. So if I go on a job and there's only white women, they're gonna look at me like they're not gonna know what to do with this. But if I go on a job and there's some sisters, girl, we got you. They know how to do this. If I'm on a job, which I've been before, and with braids are twisted and a braid falls out, or you need something, especially your hairline with the cameras like that, can you go in there and fix that braid, or do we have to call somebody in town? I've had both. I've been on the set where one of the hairdressers there, girl, don't worry about it, set up there, fix braids. Then I've had where they've had to call people. Even when I had like a weave one time, I was doing a show. They had to send me to a hairdresser in town because none of the hairdressers could do my hair. They didn't know what a hot comb, a pressing comb, they couldn't deal with it. So it's both answers. Yes, I have been, you felt like you've been seen, and sometimes you're like, they still don't get it. So there's never an area where you're just like so comfortable that it's like, I'm good, I got this. I can just relax. I'm not there yet. So maybe one day I will be.
Yeah, and for people in the workplace, right? Sometimes you don't know you are until you see your work show up somewhere else.
Right.
Or you see that you've actually paved the way. And I would argue, my friend, that you have paved the way for a lot of young actresses coming through because they got to work with you. So I'm going to say that you probably set the foundation, whether you have seen it or not. I'm sure there are a lot of young
Now it's funny
actresses
you
who.
said something that was funny. You said something about seeing your work somewhere else. I never forget years ago when I was young. I had met with a director, and it was for I think this woman was going to be in prison or somebody, and for some reason they felt that I was too attractive, and I had to say, do you understand why attractive women end up in prison? Because they are attractive, because they think they can get away with things and they get caught. But he liked the way I did it, and he had the nerve to tell me that. So he took some of the things I did, gave notes to the actress that he hired. So you're right. So sometimes you see your world, it's like, and then when you know that's what happened, it's like, I could have done that for you. And don't be penalizing me because I ain't gut butt ugly. It ain't my fault.
So behind your name is not just actress, but it's also director and producer. And so those roles of the director or the producer are different, right? In when you're behind the scenes. And so can you share with us a little bit about how you've had to maybe shift your approach or work with people differently now that you're not in front of the camera, but you're behind the camera or adjacent? What that has looked like in the workplace for you?
Well, the one thing I pride myself with about directing is I know how to work with the actors because I'm an actor. And the one thing that I love when I work with good directors, and you don't always have to be a director that has acted like professionally necessarily, but I think the best directors to me are directors that don't just worry about moving cameras, that they understand actors, that they understand, that whole thing. So for me, like, yes, I'm behind and in front. And the difference is I know how to work with actors. I understand what that's like. So I know how to pull a great performance or the best performance I'm going to get that day out of an actor because I know how to speak that language. I know, how to whisper in their ear to give them some help without embarrassing them and making them feel like they're failing or they're not doing good. Because that's really important. When somebody's having a difficult day on the set, the last thing you want to do is berate them. And I've seen that happen. It's like, it's only going to get worse from here, dude. You're not a good director because you're so worried about moving these cameras. You're not taking care of the soul that's telling the story at this particular time. Get the cameras. If he can't get what the meaning of the scene is and the soul that's coming out of the person, the camera move means nothing. So I think that, well, I know that that's one of my strongest suits, is that, and it was just a natural progression to move into directing for me, because what you realize is you spend so much time in front of the camera, you've learned so much, even when you think that you possibly, you may doubt that you really are ready to do it, but what happens is you get behind that camera, and every lesson you've known or heard or thought you knew, or it just all comes flooding out of you in different ways, because it's been there forever, pinned up, waiting to come out and reveal itself. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, and certainly as an artist, but I would also say that, for those of us who are out there who are leading teams, one of the things that Vanessa said that is, I think, super important in the workplace, it's about the people, right? It's not about all that other stuff, right? You can focus on the people and meet them for their needs, right? You can get the best out of them. And I love that you don't even know how much that really, really translates, right? Because sometimes people can get concerned about a report or how the person, that these things that are kind of around it got done, instead of focusing on the talent in your organization to help motivate them speak their speak, right? And get to know them at least well enough to know how to do that.
And
That
I'm
is
into
helpful.
this too, Shelby, because one thing
Yeah.
I learned is, like, when I'm directing and I need to give an actor a note, and I know I need something from them, you approach it by saying, okay, that was really good, and I really like, give them, and this is, everybody knows in leadership, this, give people points that were positive first. You don't go in saying, oh my God, what was that? What is that going to do to somebody?
Right.
That was hard. What was that? Did you really feel that? I mean, and some directors are that crude, but you go in and you say, especially if you're working with young actors, okay, that was good. I did see da 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 da. But this time, let's try this. And this time, I want you to think about that, because, and then give them a reason. And when I work, I always talk about colors. I tell actors that one scene, one paragraph, one sentence can have very lot of colors. It's not just the whole intent. You can take one sentence, and the beginning of the sentence means something, but the end of the sentence means something else. So the same for a paragraph. You'll start off with the beginning of a monologue, or you're talking to this person about something, means something. The middle is something different. Then the other side goes this way. And by the end, you're here. So I talk about colors. And the way I get people to produce for me what I need is I give them something that they can imagine, that they can see. And I built them up first. That was really good. I saw what you were doing. But now let's try this. And when you get to this, think about this. And then when you get here, think about that. And then it changes right here. This is where the break is, and I'm talking in, acting terms, it's different from corporate America, but in acting terms, you're like, this is where the break is. But even like when you guys have to do your presentations for your, whatever your new project or whatever production is going on in the workplace, and you've got to sit up there and lecture everybody. You got to know this colors. You got to take people along for the ride. It can't just be like, you've lost your audience. You got to engage them. Why should they keep listening to you? It's like a character, it's like a story. Why should these people keep listening to you? How can I relate to those people? How can I relate to her? Oh, I see her, but I see him. I see his point of view. I see her point of view. Then the third person comes in. Oh, now here comes somebody else. Oh, they're tying it together, but I see their point of view too. So when you have to do a presentation, even, it's all those colors that make it, interesting, and that gets people thinking, and that they see, okay, I get it. So it's always how you present stuff.
Yeah, oh wow, that was super rich. Thank you. I'm never gonna see that differently now. It's gonna be colors, right? But so when you've had such a long and sort of vast career, what do you have a piece of advice, I think, for everybody about how you made a way out of no way, is what we would say in our community. You kind of make a way out of no way, but oftentimes you have to make opportunities for yourself. You have to figure it out, right? Maybe, people aren't calling you for a job at this time, or, maybe it isn't exactly what you wanted, but you want it to be different or more, what you're being asked to do on a production. When have you done that, and how have you done that?
I've done it several times. And I'll tell you, I always tell people, think out of the box. I've done that several times. You got to think out of the box. And like young people talk to me all the time. And I tell them stuff. And I say, everything I did in my career may not work for you. But you listen to my story. You take what works for you. If you can implement it in your life, cool. The rest of the stuff you discard. One of the very first times I was able to do what you're talking about, thinking out of the box, trying to make something different, trying to figure out how to make something else happen for me. I was, I was right out of college trying to do, wanted to get on Broadway. Everybody wants to get on Broadway when you're right out of college. And I was a mediocre singer. I sang good enough, but I'm not Whitney or Jennifer Hudson or none of them. I'm good with that. Never have been, but they ain't me either. So that's fine.
Man, that's right.
But there was a paper called The Backstage. And The Backstage would tell you what auditions were going on. And there was all these Broadway shows going on. And I had auditioned enough for other stuff as a dancer, because now I danced my butt off, because I trained as a dancer that could sing. But I got the idea. I said, if I can sell myself as a singer, when it's time for me to go to the callback for the singers and dance, I'm going to blow them out the water. So this was my first Broadway show that I got. I got in the line for the singers. I went in, had my little sheet music, and I did my little song, honey, and I gave a lot of theatrics for whatever singing I was lacking. I gave them, jazz hands. I gave them show biz. Well, I made the cut, and I got called back as a singer to dance. I was like, it's over, honey. I'll wipe them singers out, because I'm a professional dancer. I'm talking about a dancer, not somebody who could dance a little bit. I mean, I dance in dance companies. I studied with Alvin Ailey. I studied Cunningham. I studied Horton. I danced my butt off. I was in dance companies, So I said, okay. And the director, I was wearing the little combination out, put myself in the middle, not the first row, but like the second row, right in the middle. I was plotting. I wanted to make sure he could see me. So I placed myself where he could see me wearing out his little combination. And he said, come here. And he pulled me out of the crowd, and he told everybody, watch her do it. And I did that combination. I said, this is over. And I got the job. But the funny thing about that is this was, the show opened on Thursday. Well, it wasn't even open. We did it was called a preview. We did a preview Thursday, and we closed on Saturday. It was not a good show, but that's what happens.
Well, wow. You know what? I this goes right into that next question about, but I love that, because ingenuity is really important. You got your brand together and modified that and got out there and got it. I'm sorry the production went down, but
that's okay. I got Dream Girls after that, and I did a lot of other stuff after that.
Right.
One of the first one where you have to, I have several stories. I know I can't tell them all, but I have several stories where I had to reinvent myself. But I will say this about what you said real quick too. I always tell people, you said, how do you prepare yourself for that? I always tell people, stay ready to be ready. So whatever that means, because in my profession, I have sometimes left the meeting and had to go to work the very next day. So I didn't have time to get ready. And I tell people, whatever that means, you don't like your weight, you don't like your teeth, you need to do your hair. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with being heavy, and ain't nothing wrong with crooked teeth. But maybe you don't like that on yourself. So whatever you don't like, change it. Make sure you are 100% as ready as you can be. So when that door opens up, sometimes it's just a little crack and you got to kick it down. You're ready, because often you don't have time to get ready. So, and because I've been in that position and I've put myself in that position, there's several times that I was able to just walk right through the door because I was already ready.
Yeah, no, that's significant. I think one of the things that I've said through sticky notes, even is, Be ready for, you could get an interview tomorrow from the job of your dream, but please don't not go because you don't have a suit and a pair of pumps to get in there, or a nice pair of shoes so you can go in and have an interview. So, there's a lot more preparation, but certainly you want to have the greens fees. So we always talk about, Vanessa, sort of owning our voice, right? But what does that mean to you? What did that mean to you as the young Vanessa Bell Calloway starting out? And what does that actually mean to you now, owning your voice?
Well, that, I mean, like you were saying earlier about just, just being and telling people how you want to look, what you want to be. You got to know who you are and what works for you. And you can't be shy to say, excuse me, no, that's not going to work for me. Because you're now asking me to be somebody I'm not. And now I'm in this situation. I'm like trying to figure out how I'm going to make this work. And I'm feeling uncomfortable because you're asking me to, well, just make that. And I'm like this. Yeah, but I don't feel good in this, whatever that position is, because that's not who I am. So you own your voice in a lot of ways by standing up for yourself, by being true to yourself. And it's not always on the other people that are making you own your voice. You got to learn how to own your own voice in your own self, in your own body. That means don't go on Instagram flossing and acting like, and trying to keep up with everybody. If that's not really you, if that's not your voice, but you feel pressured by your peers, you don't have to be that person. It's more power in being yourself always in any situation. So own your own voice doesn't always mean that you got to stand up to other people who are like trying to make you be somebody else. You got to stand up to yourself sometimes to make yourself accountable for who you are and what you believe in. What did my mom and daddy teach me? Who am I? What have been my principles? Why do I feel like I need to change this? Why am I like all of a sudden this different person? Or now I'm changing my, and it's okay to change your opinion, but make sure you're changing your opinion because you believe in whatever you're changing your opinion about. So owning your own voice, as to me, has a lot of different levels for a lot of different things. It's and it really starts with us because nobody else can treat you any way that you won't let them.
True. True story. That's it. That's anywhere. That is anywhere. You
Anyway,
actually, anywhere, you have to show people how to treat you. And so when you think about colleagues, right? Because people come to the table and bearing, I mean, I'm sure those in entertainment, they're there, especially, in front of the camera, they're there, they're artists. They want to showcase their art, right? They want to be, they want to do that part. But sometimes, because for the love of art, right? They are faced with sort of ethical issues around, are you going to do this so you can get someone to see you in this so that you can get the next job or the role or whatever, or somebody promises you this or that. In the industry for yourself, I know you have shared with us sort of the things you've done, but have you been in a position to advocate for others? And if so, what did that look like?
it's funny you say that. That happened recently. And I mean, I've advocated for others several times, but literally this summer, and I'm not going to give names, but there was a project that came up, and the script came, and of course, my manager is trying to get me into everything because that's his job. And I read the script, and literally in the script, it's my friend's name, like so and so and so and so. So they're basing this character kind of based on my friend, which I'm looking at this like, she's perfect for it. This is absolutely who this character should be. And then I get a call from my manager a couple of weeks later. Well, whatever, she's having trouble with scheduling. And he's like, they're going to be calling you, next. I'm like, no, this is not my job. This is her job. And I'm on my way to Africa. And I'm not trying to change my schedule to go to this fabulous trip to do. Not that the show wasn't important, but some things you're willing to change your life for and some things you aren't. This was one of the things I wasn't willing to change my life for. But mainly because I knew it wasn't mine. I'm like, no, this is not my part. This is her part. So I called my friend and she told me what her problem was. The money sucks. And da-da-da. I said, let me tell you something. The man had your name in the script. This is your part. He wrote it with you in mind. And every time when I read it, even before he said it, I heard your voice. And okay, so the money may not be that great now, but you don't nobody know that but you. All they're gonna know is you have a new series. So you need to get in there, make this like do the best you can, and then next year you get to negotiate more money. As my grandmother Jennifer would say, Yan is better than Nan. So you need to get in there and do something with this blessing, because this is your part. It's not my part. And as God would have it, before I went to Africa, there was something that I went on the same show, and I worked a day as a character that will possibly come back if the show gets picked up. So, and I called my manager, and I was like, call them people and make sure they hire this woman and help them work this out with her, whatever the scheduling is. Call them, and he said, I'm gonna help them. I said, because this is not my part. This is her part. So I was advocating for my friend, and I had to call her to advocate for her. She did it. It was great. It's going to be good. And should it do well, it's good for her. It was just great for her. So yeah.
That is great. And I love that, we need to support each other for sure. And so I want to ask you.
There's a place in hell for women that don't support each other.
Oh, yes, ma'am. And but in terms of that, did you, and I'm sure that you have mentors in different areas of, sort of the industry, but, talk to us a little bit about those mentors. Who helped you through to navigate, sets or to navigate negotiations? Was there a person or people who helped you, and how did they do that?
I really didn't have a mentor, but every now and again I would call Debbie Allen for something. But I didn't really have a mentor. I just kind of jumped in there and did stuff. But Debbie was supportive in my earlier career. And I never forget, this was funny. I got a show. And in my mind, so this was this younger Black woman. And she's a lawyer. And she's dealing with this older guy. He's a white guy. And he's a lawyer at the firm. And I'm thinking in my head, now did nobody say this? This is me in my head. This is what I thought. Didn't nobody tell me this. I'm thinking like Charlie's like this very distinguished white gentleman, I'm like, okay, I can do that. Well, the guy that was doing it, I was like this, oh, when I found out who was doing the part. I was like, oh my God, And I called Debbie and I said, Debbie, I just got this part. I did this and that and that. And they got so-and-so to do it. There was this quiet, like as they say, a hush fell over Jerusalem. And Debbie said, Vanessa, you're an actress. Just act. Mm-hmm. I said, oh, okay, goodbye.
That's right. Well, that's wonderful. But what a beautiful friendship and relationship. Debbie Allen's no sad mentor. So she's great if you had one. I mean, that's awesome. I know she's a friend as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so any tips for us, right, around sort of navigating the business of entertainment? And what I mean by that is, things that you would just pearls of wisdom around how you do actually talk with the producers or the directors or fellow actors, or things that just let us insight a little bit about how you get on set and what do you do? Like, how do you manage that? And are you known for anything there?
That space? It's like, it's a delicate balance. Sometimes the producers and directors are your friends. So it's a relationship you don't have to work at. It's just very natural. You just go in there and you're talking and you're laughing. But when it comes time to work, you can't. Friendship has nothing to do with it. You got to do your part. You got to get there. You got to be able to, deliver, because that's what you were hired to do. So that's a lot of cases if you're good, but sometimes you don't even know these people. You're hired, or you may know them a little bit, but you're not comfortable with like being chummy, because what you don't do is try to be everybody's best friend on set if it's not technically that. They ain't got time. They hired you. Some of them don't even want to get to know you better. They just want you to do your gig and everybody wants to go home. And I'm that type of person. I want to do my gig and go home, because by that time I done worked hard all day and I'm tired. So I ain't trying to like go have a drink with you afterwards, unless it's organic and that happens that way. So there's a lot of different case scenarios how you would interact or produce or talk, interact with a producer or director. There's a lot of different case scenarios. But mainly my job, once I get on set, is to do my job. And in between, and they're busy. So they don't have time for small talk in between setups. You know, especially a director. I've worked with people that I know are directing. And because I direct, you know, I may be sitting in the chair looking like I ain't doing nothing, but I'm thinking, I might be writing down some notes. He's working or she's working just like you working. So this ain't the time to go like, hey, remember that time when you know when that time is, when the day is kind of like leveled out or you're at lunch. And even at lunch, they're talking to producers. You know, like when I direct, you're talking to producers, you're talking to your DP, you're trying to set up the rest of that day. So you got to be very strategic in friendships and how you relate to people on set. But the main way you relate to them is just show up, be on time, know your lines. And I always say this, and I say this when I direct, and I said, be on time, know your lines, no exceptions, no excuses. And that means the same for me, because sometimes I'm not only directing, but I'm an actress too. I'm directing myself. But even when I'm not directing, I'm on other people's shows, I respect their set because now I'm just the actress and they are the leader. And I'm be on time. I know my lines, no exceptions, no excuses. Because if you got to stay up all night to learn your lines, that's on you. That's not on me. Don't come to work saying, "Oh, I just got this script last night." Okay, and what? You got it last night. That's like somebody telling you, "Oh, a marriage is." Email me the presentation or the key the points on or the information on this. I didn't get it till 11 o'clock at night, and the meeting's at 10. And the problem was what? But you did get it before the meeting, right? You did get the notes you needed before the meeting. So it's the same thing with me. It's like you get what you get, and you got to go ahead and be ready.
Right. Yeah, so I want to know, for women and particularly Black women who sometimes have a hard time, Vanessa, finding their voice, their value, and just tend not to be visible in so many workplaces. What would you say to them right now, regardless of industry? What would you share with them about
Well, I
that?
think a lot of that comes with confidence, and it's like, once again, it's different for everybody because everybody's workplace is different. So some people can be more brass and bold and jump out. Some workplaces are funny and you can be that funny one, and because a lot of times if you have that personality, you can get people more interactive with you and you can get what you want. But it all comes down to confidence and knowledge and being able to back up what you're selling. Because if you're good at what you do, at the end of the day, can't nobody shoot that down. Can't nobody shoot that down if you're good. Now, if you're faking it till you make it and you get found out, that's different. So if you're talking a big game and you all this, but when it comes time to produce, you really don't, that's different. But it all comes down to confidence to me and knowing who you are and what you're selling and backing up what you're selling. And then production, producing stuff, you know, actually having the proof in the pudding. Yeah, I'm that girl, and this is what I did. This is what I do. This is what I did today. Not just what I'm going to do and what I'm thinking about, but what did you really produce and do that's viable that we can show that's on paper? Because once you get that stuff, statistics and data, you can't dispute that. That can't be disputed. So my statistic and data is my performances that end up on film. Now you can like it or not like it, but you can't dispute that. And they can't dispute if somebody came to them and said, how was she to work with? They can't say, oh, she was late, she didn't know her line. If I know that, if I talk a good game and I'm late, don't know my lines, and I'm difficult to get along with, then that's gonna follow me. But if I know my lines, I'm on time and I'm good and I'm sweet and everybody loves me and I'm good and I'm good on screen. That's my data. That's my proof. So in any situation, you need your data. You need to, not just talk a good talk, but you got to do it. Production, confidence, and taking ownership for, and I think what's really important is taking ownership when stuff doesn't go right. Everybody wants to blame everybody, but I think you have more credibility when you can actually say, you know what? I'm sorry because my intention were to do and I thought and it didn't happen. And I will have to take this one for the team. but I'm going to fix it. And I think things like that, people, because nobody's perfect. Your boss isn't perfect. I mean,
Yes.
that's the same equation. Like we'll be doing a scene and you forget you mess up. Cut. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the same equation. I messed up. Scene can be going great and one person gonna mess up. I've been on Broadway stage and somebody drop a line, but you got to make it work. And then at the end of the show, you got to take accountability. Like, oh my God, I messed up tonight, you guys. I'm so sorry. So messing up is not the worst thing because everybody does it, but taking accountability for it and then making it right. So it's a lot of things to me, for women to find their voice and to be taken seriously and to succeed. And like you said, it's not only me in my industry, but I think it supersedes and crosses a lot of industries. It's just my data is different from your data, but at the end of the day, it's still the data that supports what we did and who we are and what we believe and our worth in our company, whatever that is.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Have your data, do what you say you're going to do, and also the confidence part. But, at the end of the day, what are the results, right? Because that's
Mm.
what you're going to be judged on. Such good pearls. Well, I have one last question for you before we open it up to Q&A. And what do you hope that your journey really teaches those that are going to follow you, right? In any industry, when you think about your legacy of working the many years that you have, what do you want people to take away from that? This next person who wants to come in and act, or they want to be a director or producer, or in any industry, honestly, Vanessa, what will your journey through this sort of be able to show people about, a Black woman with a voice in the industry?
I want people to be able to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not accountable, but like accessible. I want people to be real. That people can look at you and go, "Oh, I know this person. I know that person." That's what I hope when people talk about me. What the thing that I do like is they talk about that I'm real. It's like be who you are and be real with it. I want people to be approachable. I think people need to be approachable. They need to be accessible. They need to, I'm looking for the word that I can't get it right now. Sometimes disease, but
Authentic.
not only authentic though, but um, just in that moment of who you are, always obtainable, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So I think that all those things are very important that because we all have a lot and we want everybody to be able to say nice things about us when we leave. But were they able to walk up to you and have a conversation? Were you accessible? And it's brief sometimes. Were you able to say just one nice thing? It's like I love that thing that Maya Angelou always says. It's not about what you say to people, it's how you make them feel, because they're not going to remember what you say. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And that's something that always stays on my mind because people approach me all the time. I ain't got the key to life. I don't know how to make your life better. I'm trying to figure out how to make my life better. But what I can do, the accessibility, when you come to me and I'm accessible to you, I can say something nice that makes you feel good about yourself at that point. So being accessible, I think, is very important. And that's what I want people to leave. They leave with a thought about me. Now, that don't mean I gotta be your best friend. And don't be holding my time up because I'm gonna cut you off in a minute. They don't think I'm mean. So if I give you a minute, just know that's what that is. And we're gonna move on. But the fact that I'm accessible to you, I think that is very important. Um, just kindness goes a long way. Just kindness and just making people feel good about themselves. Because a lot of people come up to me and they don't know my day is going kind of like, and they'll say something so sweet and kind. And I'll let them know, I said, thank you, because people think I don't need to hear things like that. But you just made my day. And I let them know that
Yeah.
because they have made me feel good when I was kind of in the slump that day. And they've said something that just reminded me about who I am and that we all get those days. We all get to feel those moments because that's real and we need those moments. But they will remind me who I am and it helps me get out of that moment. You know what I'm saying? So I think accessibility is really important, and people are able to identify with you too. Like my new show, People Vince Tables, which I want everybody to watch on Netflix. Double thumbs us, please, because we need that love, and we need to be able to get season 3. But what I love, everybody says, they say, "Oh my God, they relate to me." So I think being relatable is important too. When you're so up high on a cloud, and it's okay for people to admire you, but everybody should be able to find a piece of you that they see in themselves or their mother or their sister or something. So it's okay to be that girl, but that girl is really an owl of me because she's kind of over here, and a lot of folks don't live like that. You want somebody who's relatable, and I want to be relatable to people, and I love it when they say, "Oh my God, you remind me of my aunt or my mother or this," or "Oh God, I know that person," because I create my characters off of people that I know because they're relatable to me in my life. And I mean, that's just real to me, to be accessible, to be relatable, to be authentic. Those are things that are just real to me. And if you wanted to remember me some way or say some things about me, I want people to say things like that about me, that she was relatable, she was authentic, she was real, she was accessible, she was nice, she was kind. She said something nice that made me feel good that day. Because it takes 2 seconds to be nice to somebody. And I ain't going to never see that person again. And I don't know their life. And trust me, people are always trying to tell me their life story for some reason. I hear something, I should have been a hairdresser or a therapist. But I listen long for a minute, and then I just try to get the one little nice thing to say, and then I go about my way. And did that cost me anything?
That's right. We can do more of that, spreading that kindness. But I can say, as your friend, that is who you are. I mean, so I think people will absolutely say that whenever I know I've called, you've been there, and you just are good to people that
Because I
way.
great things
I
for you. I've always seen great things for you.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I even started off the hour, and Vanessa could tell you this about a young woman who was impacted by just some kind words and kindness from Vanessa. And it was a great story. And so I told her that before we got started tonight. But, in our workplaces, we need kindness goes a really long way, and relationships and, just being kind to people because you're out in the world. There's a lot of kind of meanness going on. So be that one that actually helps make somebody have a nice day. Well, look, I don't want to take. We try to finish this up in an hour. I know you have questions, and I really want to give an opportunity to do that. So I'm going to turn it back
Absolutely.
over to Erica.
Wow, thank you all for such an insightful discussion on how to truly command center stage, whether that's in Hollywood or the boardroom. We've heard some fascinating takeaways, and I know I love this stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Definitely something I live by. So let's transition into Q&A. The first question is, your roles have covered such a wide spectrum from iconic Princess Imani and Coming to America to powerful dramatic leads. Is there a character you've played who you've stepped into their shoes that taught you a surprising lesson about leadership or resilience that you still use in day-to-day life?
That's a good question. And I'm gonna keep this short so we can get other questions. That's a good question. People always ask me things similar to that, and I say, my roles are like my children. They're all were great for different reasons, and a lot of them I can't remember, because it's been a long time. But I think I learned something from each role. I really do. I learned more about myself, and I learned more about the everyday person. When you play an everyday person, and that's not necessarily your life, you learn from those scenes. So I've learned from each role. Yes.
The next question is, as a seasoned professional, how do you handle those inevitable moments on set or stage where things go wrong, like a missed line, a broken prop, or a technical glitch? What's your show must go on strategy to quickly pivoting to maintain your center stage?
I get the question. You just keep going. You don't stop. I mean, because especially if you're on stage with Broadway, if somebody slips a line or something happened, y'all don't know we messed up. Now we making a big thing. Now we messed up. But a professional, you keep going. Like with Lawrence, this story has been going viral recently. Lawrence Fishburne accidentally slapped me for real, and what's love got to do with it? So one side of my face was like throbbing, and the other side said, "Keep going, Vanessa. This is going to be good." So he didn't mean to slap me. I'm sure he did not realize he slapped me until his hand hit my face. Everybody was like this. because they know I got slapped. I know I got slapped because my face was pounding, but I kept going. So, like anything, you get a glitch, you work through it, you keep going. You don't stop until you absolutely have to. Next question.
The theme of this talk was center stage. So, in the corporate world, this could be a presentation or a negotiation or a board meeting. What's one technique that you use to ensure that your performance is memorable and can get that standing ovation?
Preparation, preparation, preparation. And then I pray before I go that, that God guides me. But you can't get that standing ovation. You can't get an excellent performance if you aren't ready. So whatever that takes, stay ready to be ready. We go back to that. Whatever that takes. For me, I've got to know my lines. That means I've got to study, study, study. I've got to know those lines and that character in that moment so well that you don't know I'm acting. You think it's a real situation, and that I feel comfortable enough where I can the words are just flowing off my mouth and I'm not thinking about what I'm saying. So preparation, preparation, preparation.
Great. And so this is our last question. So a great one to end on. What advice would you give to emerging professionals about cultivating a voice that isn't dependent on visibility or external validation?
That's a very good question. I think that's individual. Some people need visibility and some people need validation. Some people need that reassurance that they're doing a good job, and some people need to be out there front and center and to feel that. And it makes them grow and feel more needed. So if you want to be that person that wants either, then you're really talking about working quietly behind the scenes. So your work has to be stellar. So what we see on paper, or if you're a computer person or whatever it is you're doing, when we finally view the work and we put the name of this work, because we haven't seen you and we haven't heard from you, right? Because you're like trying to be, then your work needs to be stellar. I'm not talking about lukewarm, kind of okay. I'm talking about stellar. Yeah, that's what I would say to that.
I think that that's such a great note to end on. Thank you so much. Well, I want to say thank you all for joining us. I want to extend my gratitude to our host, Shelby Bogney, and our phenomenal guest, Vanessa Bell Calloway. Thank you for this outstanding and timely presentation. If you have any additional questions or would like to connect with Shelby, I have included her contact information in the chat and on the screen. If you're not already a member of Shelby Sticky Notes on Facebook, I encourage you to join for more career advice that truly sticks. On behalf of our Sticky Notes team, thank you for spending your time with us this evening, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.